Above the law. The Crown's culture of ignoring rules. We've been taught since childhood that the law protects us, that justice is blind, and that no one is above the law. But after years of study and my own bruising experience with Canada's justice system, I've discovered a hard truth. The law is not blind, and the Crown is not bound by the same rules it imposes on the rest of us. Framing the problem. Think of law as software. It's thousands of years old, 4,000, maybe 7,000, and over that time it's been patched, layered, and jury-rigged by politicians and judges. The justice system is the hardware it runs on: courts, police, prosecutors, prisons. But here's the problem. This software has bugs, not minor bugs, but systemic flaws that produce injustice over and over again. And unlike computer software, law has almost never been debugged. It just accumulates contradictions, loopholes, and backdoors. In the software engineering culture, we use terms like code smell, spaghetti code, kludge, hack, and bug. For larger systemic issues, we use terms like technical debt. These terms apply just as well to the law and justice system. The cultural hardware issue. Worse, the culture of those who run the system, prosecutors, judges, even police boards and other oversight bodies, is adversarial, insensitive, and allergic to accountability. They speak the language of justice, but the incentives of their culture reward something else entirely: winning, impunity, plausible deniability, and blame avoidance. In this culture, justice isn't measured in terms of whether a wrong is made right, but by whether the Crown gets its way. That isn't just a design flaw. It is a moral hazard baked into the operating system of our democracy. In fact, in many ways, the justice system has become the very antithesis of justice, at least in the Aristotelian sense of enabling human flourishing. Introducing the project. That's why I wrote Above the Law. It's not just one book, but three. Book 1 documents the failures, the Crown's culture of ignoring its own rules. Book 2, Rex versus the People, shows how the system bends over backwards to protect power instead of people. In Book 3, The Engineering Fix, asks the question no one else is asking. How do we re-engineer law and justice using the same principles of science and systems design that we use to fix every other kind of broken machinery? Invitation to the viewer. This channel is about exposing those bugs, showing the human cost, and exploring how we can design something better. Because if law is the software of society, then debugging it is not optional. It's survival. We cannot keep trusting a system that lets the powerful live above the rules, while the rest of us pay the price. Closing call to action. So if you've ever wondered why justice so often fails the very people it claims to protect, or if you believe we can build something better, join me. Subscribe, share, and let's start the hard work of re-engineering justice together. And if you're wondering who I am, my name is Eric Kolotyluk. I'm a computer scientist and software engineer. I've spent my life troubleshooting complex systems, tracking down code smells, and refactoring spaghetti code into something that actually works. Now I'm turning those same skills on the justice system. I didn't choose this path lightly. I've endured serious trauma, the torts of defense, because the Crown could not respect a most basic principle of our democracy: innocent until proven guilty. Even after my acquittal, the Crown continued to treat me as though guilt still clung to me. That experience made the cracks in the system existential and impossible to ignore. So now I'm determined to expose the bugs in our legal software and the flaws in our cultural hardware, and to fight for an upgrade worthy of the word justice. If it can happen to me, it can happen to you. Sometimes I wonder what role I'm really playing in this fight. Am I David standing against Goliath, Beowulf battling the monster? Or am I more like Don Quixote tilting at windmills, with only my conscience, my Sancho, for company? I ask myself, am I a warrior poet, or am I just on a fool's errand? Maybe both. But if the law really is the software of society, then even a fool who insists on debugging it is doing something necessary, because the greater folly would be to see the cracks in the system, to feel their harm, and to look away. The statement, often quoted as the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing, is frequently attributed to Edmund Burke. Still, its actual origin is unconfirmed and possibly a misattribution. John Stuart Mill expressed a similar sentiment in 1867, stating that bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. The core idea is that evil thrives in the absence of active opposition from individuals who would otherwise choose to act for good. My thinking is not born in isolation. I am standing on the shoulders of giants. Aristotle taught us that justice must serve human flourishing. Holmes showed us the contradictions of law, at once profound and monstrous, a reminder that genius and folly often share the same vessel. Mill warned us that evil triumphs when good men do nothing. Frater exposed the hard truths of prosecutorial misconduct from within the culture itself. Klein revealed how states exploit crises to entrench power. Deming gave us the logic of systems, root causes, inequality, without which nothing durable can be built. Kahneman charted the biases that warp our perception of truth and fairness. Each, in their way, has guided me, even when I have resisted or despised what I found in their words. Even in my fiction, I circled these themes. In my science fiction novel, Aspect, Love and Adventure and Artificial Intelligence, I imagined a future dystopia where very wealthy people pay astonishing sums of money to AI lawyers to protect themselves from other AI lawyers. That book was a decade in the making. Still, even then, the seeds were already there. Suspicion of law as dogma, recognition of its adversarial lust, and longing for something engineered with reason and compassion. I do not claim originality so much as continuity. My work is an attempt to debug and refactor what I inherited, to take the tangled spaghetti code of law and untangle it enough that justice might run cleanly again. My hope, my telos, is that someday others will stand on my shoulders, not to admire my view, but to see farther still. Synopsis of the trilogy. Book 1, Above the Law, the Crown's Culture of Ignoring Rules. This book documents the failures. It shows how Canadian law and justice have been hollowed out by deference to the Crown, by structural conflicts of interest, and by a professional culture that confuses winning with justice. It is evidence, testimony, and lived experience woven together to show how the architecture of impunity functions day to day. Book 2, Rex versus the People. Here, the focus shifts to the deeper conflict, sovereignty claimed by the Crown against the sovereignty of the people. Book 2 dissects how courts, legislatures, and prosecutors bend to protect power rather than to protect rights, and how deference becomes a quiet engine of democratic backsliding. If Book 1 exposes the cracks, Book 2 shows how those cracks form patterns of rule that work against the very citizens the law was meant to serve. Book 3, The Engineering Fix. The final volume turns from critique to construction. Drawing on systems theory, software engineering, and science, it asks how we might re-engineer law and justice for a society that values remedy, fairness, and human flourishing. It explores metrics, accountability mechanisms, and the possibility, even the necessity, of AI in adjudication. Book 3 is not a blueprint, but a framework, a set of tools and principles for those who will build the justice system we have not yet known. The book ends with a thought experiment I call the Republic of Canada, a first pass at architecting law and justice based on science and engineering principles, doctrines, and quality assurance. Vision and mission for what comes after. The vision is simple, a justice system that actually delivers justice, not just for the Crown, not just for the powerful, but for everyone. A system where innocent until proven guilty is not a slogan but a lived reality, where remedy, not ritual, is the measure of success, where fairness is engineered into the very architecture of law. The mission is harder, to build the foundations of that system. That means more than writing books. It means inspiring debate, sparking reform, and equipping others with the intellectual and technical tools to carry the project further. I see this work not as an ending, but as a platform. My contribution is to map the failures, frame the conflict, and sketch the tools. What comes after must be collective. Lawyers who dare to rethink their role, engineers who apply their craft to justice, citizens who demand more than slogans. If I succeed, I will not be the last. Others will stand on these shoulders, debug further, build better, and design a system worthy of the word justice. Finally, here is some further reflection.
On courage and action. Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. John Stuart Mill, 1867. On justice and purpose. The law is reason free from passion. Aristotle. Yet reason without compassion is no justice at all. On systems and reform. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. W. Edwards Deming. On power and corruption. It is not that power corrupts, but that it is magnetic to the corruptible. Frank Herbert, Dune. On legacy. If, I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Isaac Newton, 1675.